OTB AM.
We'll start with OTBsports.com. Declan Rice to Manchester United just feels right. That's Pat Nevin talking about Declan Rice's future on the show last night. They did just give Nemanja Matic a new deal, so would it be two players playing in the same position? It's a very Man United thing, I suppose, to do. He's reinvented a lot of things. Paul McGinley talking about Bryson DeChambeau's win in very technical terms about how the ball explodes off the club face. So a little bit of science for you there. Patrick Mahomes' success manifests itself in moments. Patrick Mahomes is the new Michael Jordan. We've been saying this on the snap for quite a while, but he is the first athlete, I think, who has had the potential to be as dominant in his sport as Michael Jordan has been. And then a commentary I'll never get sick of hearing, Emmett McNamara talking about winning the English Derby at the weekend in remarkable fashion. Was on the show last night for you as well. Where are you going on?
The Irish Examiner this morning leads with John Fogarty's piece with John Shagru. Players at risk of falling between club and county, he says. This is in relation to obviously everything that's going on at the moment in the GAA. The match report from last night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Grim stuff, says the headline, but Spurs still in European hunt, with a photo of Dominic Calvert-Lewin going flailing through the air as Ben Davies tackles him. County managers want clarity on training rules. This is another piece from John Fogarty here, where a number of county managers are seeking clarification from the GAA via their boards about what they can do with players before September 14th. So collective training, does that mean gym sessions, collective gym sessions, meetings, talking about tactics, walkthroughs? They want clarity on what that includes. And Arteta eager to keep hold of really important Ceballos. Of course, he's on loan at the club this year, started to come into a bit of form over the last couple of weeks, and it is Arsenal against Leicester tonight at 8:15.
The Irish Independent back page for you there. Let players go back and be clubmen, urges Boylan. So a Sean Boylan interview where he's wide-ranging, talking about lockdown, what it's been like for him as well, and talking about the need for us all to sit and take stock. Haven't we all been stopped in our tracks? Everybody's been completely stopped in their tracks, and it's time for a total assessment. It's time for total fair play. This is exactly the conversation we've been having over the last couple of months, is let's take this opportunity to put out a vision for what's coming next. And instead we've had this club versus county row and various bits of backtracking about whether or not anybody's going to end up being punished for breaching rules. And there's actually a good piece in The Independent, which we'll get to at the end of this. Declan Bogue was writing about how ultimately you're going to have to report on your own club member. That's what's going to happen here. You're going to have to report on your own club member not being given access to train with you. Like, who's going to do that? How is that going to happen? Like, is it going to happen?
No chance. Like 0% that happens in most cases, to be honest. Like, we were having this conversation yesterday, what is the alternative? Like, the entire culture of the GAA and rule breaking has been kind of based on the nod and the wink and trying to do things in a sly way sometimes, and the only way you can get around that is by actually calling people out and things. So in a weird way, what Tom Ryan said last Friday week about calling people out is still the truth. You will still need people to be pointing fingers and actually publicly putting their head above the parapet when it comes to this sort of thing. The London Times this morning leads with Martin Ziegler's piece here that stars can kneel for anthem. So this is in relation to the FA Cup coming up, where the national anthem will be played. The Football Association giving players the green light to take a knee before those games during the anthem. Meanwhile, more terrible news from the RFU. They're set to lose 139 jobs, writes Alex Lowe. So they're proposing to cut its staff by 139, nearly a quarter of its 580 employees. So this is part of a process where their losses could be up to £107 million. The RFU, one of the worst affected sporting organisations in the world, really, by COVID-19. And GB gymnasts were abused. So this is rather grim developments from an ITV News investigation where top British gymnasts have claimed that they suffered serious physical and emotional abuse by coaches in a string of allegations in that programme last night. So that is the London Times.
The Irish Times this morning. Spurs hold nerve after Keane deflects victory their way, and they also have Rodgers confident. So it's match preview and review on that page. And then following up on yesterday's story, John O'Sullivan has obviously spoken to somebody within the IRFU. Pandemic's implications will delay completion of $450 million deal is the story here. So obviously we had reports from France that Bernard Laporte was saying it looks like a deal will be done in the next 2 months. The Six Nations Tournament Committee is in charge of the file. They just made a counter-proposal last week about CBC. In the first discussion, there was talk of 79 million over 5 years. With the renegotiation, it'll be closer to 75 million, but this represents a substantial sum. That was what was reported yesterday in the papers coming from France, but somebody has in Irish rugby has given John O'Sullivan a sense that the time frame may be longer than the one outlined by Bernard Laporte, and that actually there, it might take a little bit longer for this whole thing to happen. And he's also talking here about CVC and the desire that they'll have to put matches behind a paywall, which is the lead story on the back of the Mail this morning. Obviously the Six Nations is not a protected tournament, and as a result it could go behind a paywall if it was required to do so, or if the Six Nations decided that's what they wanted.
The Irish Daily Star this morning leads with the headline, Law and Peace. Tottenham seeing their players go to war at half-time and then making up with it with a big hug after the game. Curtis Jones, meanwhile, says we are the greatest cop side. The youngsters saying that they're the best Liverpool side ever. Ring, the king of hurling. Micheál Murray is interviewed in the Irish Daily Star today to chat about Christy Ring, who would have been 100 today. And League's director on cards. The new SSE Electricity League director could be known by next week, because interviews were held for the post yesterday. So Paul Lennon's writing this piece, and it's not clear whether Niall Quinn has gone for that job or the commercial director's role, with which he has also been linked. So these two posts, and those of Grassroots Director and Chief Operations Officer, were last month advertised internally, with interviews held yesterday for the 4 roles. So there's going to be a few new appointments next week in the FAI.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what happens there for that one. So the Mirror, their headline, which I think is tab of the morning to you, is Hugo Bosch better than Law and Peace?
100%. Fantastic.
And then they also have the Irish Mirror here has Old Firm date is fanfare. Neil Lennon believes the opening Old Firm showdown of the season can be boosted by fans inside Parkhead. So October 17th, he's hopeful of there being fans there. We don't deserve to be in the Prem. That's Bournemouth striker Joshua King. And Hoops face problem with trip to France. Shamrock Rovers are anxiously waiting to find out whether they can still fly to play Paris Saint-Germain in a glamour friendly. It seems unlikely at the moment, the way things are going. Non-essential travel is now not advised before July 20th. This game's supposed to be on the 17th of July. Is it essential that Shamrock Rovers go over to Paris to play PSG in a friendly? I mean, it might be essential from a business perspective.
I mean, what is essential? Essential is all how you view it, is it not? I'm sure that possibly is in a bit of danger.
It's fairly obvious that this isn't essential.
It's not going to go ahead. If it's not going to go ahead, I would dare say. The Irish Sun throwing their hat in the ring for tab of the morning to you as well. Law and disorder. Skipper Hugo and Sons bust up. We've got Anthony Joshua as well saying we need sport union on racism. Rovers get the abuse, but issue runs deeper, writes Neil O'Riordan this morning. And King's no good rap. Josh King has launched a scathing attack on Bournemouth and said we don't deserve to be in the Premier League, and cut price Canaries. As we've kind of touched on this morning with Martin Lipton, Norwich players will see their wages cut by half after relegation from the Premier League. But I suppose Lipton is more talking about the fact that their price tag could be cut in half, and a few of their players might be up for grabs a bit easier than they would be if they stayed up. So that is the Irish Sun this morning.
The Irish Daily Mail, their back page is charged down. Six Nations and move towards pay-per-view, and scrappy Spurs. And then also Top Flight want FA Cup ties moved to midweek. So midweek under lights, not the worst thing. It's one of the reasons why we all love the League Cup. So the Six Nations edging closer to moving behind a paywall. There's one more season left. The 2021 season might be the last free-to-air one if CBC get their way.
The Guardian this morning leads with a photograph from Spurs celebrating after their winning goal last night. Bust-up fails to blunt Spurs. Lloris and Son almost came to blows at half-time, but the pair made up and helped Tottenham ease the victory over a toothless Everton side. The other story here is about rugby's financial wreckage. Sweeney warns of long fallout from virus, with 139 jobs at risk. So that is the Guardian this morning.
The Telegraph, their lead story is LTA accused over old boys club culture. The Lawn Tennis Association has been hit by a spate of departures among senior women, as an investigation by the Daily Telegraph reveals long-standing allegations of chauvinism in the organisation. Fairly horrific details there of stuff that's been going on in the LTA. I just wanted to very quickly talk about a story that was in the Telegraph here. This is Blackburn and Northern Ireland international Corey Evans. And I don't know if you can see, so the picture of the skull there in the middle of the page, it should be flat and it should be kind of, you know, relatively smooth, but all of the bits that you can see are screws in his head from where he took a kick. And the line that stuck out, which they helpfully put in a drop quote, the surgeon likened it to being hit in the face with a hammer or baseball bat. I was lucky, a bit further in and I could have had brain damage, so it was just an accidental boot to the face. But he now has a bunch of screws, a maze of screws, which has been used to keep his forehead in place. And like there's splints in his nose, and there's loads of staples in his head. And came back a couple of weeks ago and scored on his return to play and was man of the match. It's an unbelievable story. His kids didn't recognise him when he got home.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Can he head the ball?
He can head the ball, and you know what? He said actually everybody asking him the whole time, can you head the ball, made him really nervous about it. It was like, it's like are you nervous, are you nervous, are you nervous? No, I wasn't until you asked me, but I am now. It was like, yeah, I can't head the ball. He can't head the ball, he's fine. So, and a remarkable story about the powers of modern science.
Absolutely. The Racing Post this morning, and the front page goes with love match. O'Brien eyes arc tussle with Enable for his very special Oaks heroine. Golden Horde leads Classic Generation into first battle with Elders in July Cup, and they've got a stable tour special inside the newspaper as well. The headline Summer Jumpers, and then on the back of the Racing Post this morning, the headline reads Outfoxed, Gunners may come up short against Wiley Leicester. It's an 8:15 kick-off at the Emirates Stadium tonight. It's
a decent game to look forward to, right? Like two teams playing reasonable football at the moment, and both sides with enough frailties to make you think this should be a 2-all draw.
It should be, yeah. There could be, or else Leicester will just show up and smash them 3-0. Like, I mean, there is the needle is getting ever closer to that balloon that is inflating for Arsenal. Like, I think in general the two things tend to move at like a similar pace: the inflation of the balloon and the speed at which the needle moves towards it. So it's coming any day now. They've got some tough fixtures. They're playing Liverpool soon. They're playing City soon. Like, that is definitely going to be kind of a samurai sword to the balloon when all hopes and dreams will be crushed forever. But it could be tonight. I'm not ruling out tonight for Arsenal to be put back into their place and be shown up for the shambles that they possibly still are.
Where did the balloon metaphor come out of?
I don't know. I was trying to think of bursting a bubble, and then I came up with the word balloon instead of bubble. But, you know, we live and we learn.
The Herald, time for GAA to play fair. This is a call from Sean Boylan. Boylan calls for total rethink on calendar. And can Klopp do a Fergie with Poole? You kind of feel like yes is the answer at the moment. City and United in battle for defenders. So Manchester United and Manchester City are set to fight it out for centre halves this summer. Both interested in Koulibaly, and Inter's Skriniar. And so there's a bunch of others there as well. It depends on whether or not Man City are going to have their Court of Arbitration for Sport ban upheld or not. If that court upholds the ban, then they will be less likely to invest in players, apparently. But we'll see. When is that going to happen? When is the date for that actually happening?
It's this month sometime.
Right, it would need to happen pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like, it's in everybody's interest for them to come up with a decision. You would have thought that, having heard the evidence, it would have taken them only a couple of days to do so. But yeah, they've given themselves until now. So like, it's a huge piece of news. It's going to be one of the biggest stories for British football, especially when it comes to the 5th place spot in the Premier League, and where certain parts around Europe are going to end up after the transfer window closes.
Right, at 8:55 this morning, let's take a quick look at what's on the OTB Sports app. Reminder, to find the app, just search for OTB Sports. That's OTB Sports in the Google Play Store or in the App Store. And when you log on, you decide what your feed is going to be, depending on which sports you've liked. When you sign up and personalise it, you can get our latest videos. You can see the latest podcasts. Every single podcast that we upload gets uploaded to the app first. And after that as well, there's the rest of the stories that we're working on at the moment. You can listen to radio full-time, non-stop, 24 hours a day, which is all of our live shows. So Monday Night Rugby, Wednesday Night Rugby, whenever that goes live. And then, of course, the live shows in the morning and the evening. And then all of our podcasts are there for you to subscribe to as well on the podcast section. And we ping you a little notification. If you sign up for our notifications, which I'd recommend you do, then as soon as we go live with any of that stuff, you'll know about it first.